Hi, welcome back. So we are at the second outline of this section, and that is to discuss modules and packages. So let's look at the point or to-do list in this particular outline. So we're going to look first of all at the concept and the idea. What do we mean with this idea of modules and packages? Now, basically, we know how to create a class now and how to instantiate objects. But the question is that how do we organize them? For a small program, of course, we can just put all our classes into one file, and then we can add a little script at the end of the file to start them and interact with them. However, as our project grows, it can be really difficult to find one class and need to adjust or amend anything to that class. And this is where modules come in as a concept or as an idea. Now, modules simply are nothing but it's just a Python file. Remember in the previous videos, we created a file name called main.py. This is considered to be a module, nothing more. So a single file, in other words, in our program is a module. And we can have as many modules or files as we want. Let's assume in this particular example, I am creating an e-commerce kind of a system, right? And we would like to store a lot of data in a database. Now we can put all the classes and functions related to the database access into a separate file. So we have this file one will be our actually module one in this case, right? And inside this file, which is going to be .py somehow, this way you call it bottom, and we can call it something relevant to that. So maybe we can call it a database.py. Now this is a module, and then I can create other files, maybe another one related to customer, right? Again, .py. Another one may be related to the inventory. Now, each one of these is considered to be a segregated model. Now, what happened, I can actually go to this particular file and I can import whatever I want from this file be actually used down here. To do that, the word import, it is intuitive on its own. And actually, we have used this word in the previous example. Let's assume you have this database, .py, it has a class. And this module here has a class. Let's call it database, something like that. And it's a class, right? It's a class and just have passed here, nothing important. So now what I can do, I could, from this module called customer that need to import that guy from here, what I could do, I just will use this word of import. And then I just have to specify particularly what I want to import. Well, I can just import db. Now db is the module name, which is actually the file name here. Now what happened when I imported db, I can access inside this model every class that is created down there. So basically I can just create here a variable one and let's this variable be an object, right? Instantiate literally an object from the database class here. And how to reach to database here, just I can use the module name, which is in case db, and then I can decide to reach out to this database class. We will move down to practice this in a while. I just want to show you the general idea why is that convenient and nice. Imagine for some reason, I don't know what it is, this module customer here have its own class, right? It has a class and somehow the class name happens to be exactly like that. In this case, if I would have to import this and I'm using this syntax, maybe I will have a conflict. So in this case, what I could change this particular syntax to say, well, and this is the other word I want to share with you from the DB, which is this module name, import. Now I'm specifying the class name, which is in this case, I'm going to call it database as. Now this is the second word. So we have a from and we have as, we have import. We're going to practice them in a while. As for example, db, something like that. Now in this case, I am avoiding the confusion with the other class that can be having conflict name one way or another. Actually, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and try to illustrate these in a practical way. So what I want to do, I just want to illustrate what I was talking about just now. Let's create one module here, database.py, and let's create the second module. Let's call it customer. So we have two modules now. Now here in database, let's just create a class and let's call it database, a class, and does nothing important. Now inside the customer here, import database. Now I can create an object or instantiate, an object, and let's call it a database from database dot. Now look, this is the class that is defined inside the database. If we want to find out that one, we can print that object and see what this object will look like. Let's now go and call on the customer and see. So what we have here, we have, you could say, an object from the database module. The database, it is an object instantiated from this particular class inside this module and in this particular place in the memory. Now there is an alternative way. Instead of using the actual namespace database of the module name, what I can do, I can just say from database module, I want you to import, and of course you will find only one class because we just create one class there. Now what I have to change here is just like I used to work before. I just can delete and everything will still be the same and working exactly as we expect. So if I run it one more time, you can see everything is still identical. Now there is a problem here. If I would have, say, a class, it's inside the customer, somehow its identical name to this class happens to be in the other module. So what will happen if I instantiate this object DB and call this database? So is it call this or this? This will be kind of a confusion. Let's actually run this and see what will happen. Will it happen? But the problem here, before we were instantiating this from this module database, which is this one, and then we're calling database class inside a module. But this line here, he is not instantiating from that module, he's instantiating from the main module. I mean, he's instantiating from the customer module, from the main module, and he calling that one. But I didn't intend to do that. What I wanted, in fact, I want this database to be the one inside this module, not inside this module. That's why what we can do, we come to here, importing the class, and I will precisely give it a kind of attendant name that maybe DBM, something like that. Now, this particular DBM, let me make it this capital letter, will be more intuitive. Now, in this case, when I want to instantiate this object, I don't want this database, which I indicate this class. To avoid that confusion, I will just say, well, this is going to be DBM, which is this particular class in here. This will work very well. And now this DB object will be actually instantiating an object from this class, which is inside the database model. Now, if you run this one more time, you should get back to the exact same result you were saying before. Now, there is important things that many people might miss to understand and misuse somehow. Imagine inside this database, I don't have only one class. I have another class. Let's call it, for example, connect. And again, I'll pass for now. Another class called disconnect. Now I have 3 different classes here. When I would love to go here from database, I want to import. I have imported here only this class, but maybe I want to use this and this. There's some people might intend to use this syntax called star. Now, what does a star implies here? It implies what important things, that go and import every class that happens to be created inside this module of database. Well, this is not the best thing you can do. Now, every experienced Python programmer will tell you, you should not do that. Never. Why? Because there are a few reasons. One of them, for example, it can be really tedious later on if you, for example, let's say I created this particular instance of this particular class. Now, somehow along the line, after 400 lines of code written here, I reach out here and I found this particular class. Now I want to go and make some changes within that class. Then I would ask the question, where does this class I imported from? Will take time, because once you start really and your project enlarge, you might forget name of those modules and classes you name. So here there is no explicit actual name indicated. Now, the star here indicate that database is within that star. That's why this kind of a practice is not really healthy thing to do. Now let's get to the second point of discussion, organizing the modules. As we have seen just now, we have a number of those modules that took place inside that particular main folder, right? We had like this kind of folder, a main folder here. And then we started to create module 1 and module 2, etc. But you can see as the project grow into a collection of modules and more, we may find we want to add another level of abstraction, some kind of a nested hierarchy, if you will. However, we can't just put modules inside other modules, because module is just a file. End of the day, we saw that is a module, it's a file. But what we can do, we can put number of modules or this file inside a folder, and this folder we call it a package. So now we have two important words. We have just now come to understand the difference between them: modules and a package. How can I let Python understand this is just not a normal folder, but it's actually a package that contain number of actually modules? And this is the use of something called underscore init __.py. So this is a module or actually a file name. Usually we put it in a folder itself to imply to Python, hey, listen, this is not a normal folder, it's going to be a package. Let me actually illustrate that with a real example and show you we can actually make it happen in Visual Code. Now you can see from this image here, I have this parent kind of a folder, or the main directory of my project. Now this is just a module, main.py file, which can be like a kind of the interface. Later you will understand in a while. So we have then another folder, we call it, for example, e-commerce, right? And inside that folder, you have these three files. So one file, we are telling Python now, this e-commerce, it is a package. And why I know it's a package? Because it has this magical file __ init.py. And then I have module called database. I have another module called product. And then within or inside the e-commerce, I have another folder. So this is another folder here called payment. And this folder itself, it is a package. So I packed a package within another package. And how do I know this is a package, not a normal folder? Because of this particular file, again, __ init. Let's go ahead actually and do some practical example and see what that would look like in Visual Studio Code. So I'm heading back to this, like say I am in section number 2. I'm going to just illustrate the exact same tree I was talking about. So you see this hierarchy is very important to be recognized. Now I have this main package called e-commerce, and inside this main package, I have two modules, and then inside the package I have another package that has another two modules, and I can just start connect and reach out between them. Now if I come to database here and I create a class, let's call it database. In product, what I can do, I can just go and import the database, and then I can instantiate a database object. Alternatively, as we said, I can say from database, I want you to import the database, and I can again instantiate that saying I want to create or insert your object database. So nothing actually has changed at all. But that leads me to another question, is that how about the access from the other package inside the hierarchy from that way? Here is what actually the definition of what you call an absolute and a relative import. And it's exactly what I'm going to show you now. So before we hit back, I'm going to make some change on the hierarchy of the project we're working on to explain in details these two terms in actually practical way. Because you could see the structure here. I have this main folder, just the section 2 where we are right now, right? Under this tree that you see here, we have this folder e-commerce, and we have this Python module called main.py, and we have another file or module called setup.py. So they are, all these three are just inside the section 2. Out of section 2, I created another Python module. I call it outside.py. Okay, let me go and open this e-commerce and see what's inside here. So what we see now inside e-commerce, there are actually 3 folders. We have one called collect, 2 called no pack, and 3 called payment. So there are 3 folders. And then we have this __ init.py, and we have another module called runner.py. So I want you to understand all these are just packed inside this e-commerce, right? What I can see from here, that e-commerce now is considered in the eyes of the interpreter as a package. Now let me go and open each one of these folders to show you what is inside them. Now what is inside collect? We have 3 modules. One of them happens to be underscore in it. What does that mean? Now collect itself, it is a package. So now we have a package inside another package. That's why this can be now called a library. But anyway, so we have collect itself, it is a sub package of the e-commerce package, the big package, right? And then we have 2 modules inside this collect package, one called database and one called product. Then in the second folder here, the second line here folder, it just have one module, but it doesn't have in it. So no pack, it is not considered a package, but it's just considered to be a normal folder that is inside the e-commerce package. Then we have another folder payment here. Right now we have collect, no pack, and payment. So what is inside payments here? We have the underscore in it. What does it mean? Now payment also is a package and it has only one module called credit. So please pause and try to understand this tree very, very well, because I created for a purpose. If you understand this example very well, then you will be able to master and to understand the idea of package and modules and organizing the architecture of your project very, very well. One of the most actually confusing topic one can encounter, no matter how many years of experience you can be as a programmer. But anyway, I try my best to bring every single scenario within this tree. So go ahead and try to understand the structure on your own one more time. Now we are inside the Visual Studio and I have just created the tree that I was talking about. I hope now you understand each one of them in particular. And now e-commerce, of course, it's a package because it has this in it and it has this called runner. Why I did runner? Because I want this to be the interface of this package. Let me go inside each one of these sub packages and actually their modules inside here and do something. Let me start with the collect. We have this database. Let me create this variable here called IM variable inside the database. And then I go to product here. Now I want you to see in terms of the tree perspective. You see the tree perspective that you can see here. Let's say product want to reach to the database. Now you might think the easiest way to go to the product and say, well, import database. And then you must say, well, I want to print database dot this DB variable. Let me open actually the terminal here and just move to that location where the collect is. I'm going to go inside section 2, and then I'm going to go inside commerce, and then I'm going to go inside collect. ls. Now I can see I am here. Now what I want to run actually, I want to run product.py. It works very well. There is no problem at all. So everything seems to be fine and we just follow normal. Now this style, as I mentioned before, is called an absolute style. What I want to do, I'm going to go back. I am inside still this e-commerce. Remember the package itself. I will reach out to this module on the same tree of the e-commerce where there are the 3 sub packages, right? This runner.py. How it's going to work? Now runner, it's inside the e-commerce. I need to get runner to go inside the collect. So how you can do that? You might tell me, well, I can say import collect dot database. We're going to print again DB. Now, once again, I'm going to open my terminal. In this case, I am at the runner here, run that. So go runner, py, everything is working perfect. So you could see now I was able from this side to go up and I go inside one of these folders. I could use alternative of using this import and then collect database. I have alternative way to say, well, from collect.database, import this particular variable. And here directly I can just go and print that. Let's try to test and make sure everything is okay. Again, I'm going to run runner and everything working good. This style is called the absolute. Now we are working. Don't forget, I'm out. I went inside here. Great. Now let's do something more interesting. Let's go and try to open payment, which is another sub-package in the same tree of e-commerce. Open this credit, which is another module inside payment, and say payment, this credit module want to reach out to the database module inside collect. You see now I'm talking about taking this tree here, will go out the module from here and go try inside the module, inside this package, the module database. This is what I'm trying to do now. Great. So what would you think? You will say, well, we'll use the same thing. So we'll go import, and I can just call collect and just call database. Let's try this form. Let's print here collect database dot dby. Don't forget, now I am inside the e-commerce. I am here inside this. Now I should go inside the payment, not anymore inside the runner. CD payment, and then inside the payment we have this credit that we just created here. So I'm going to run that. Watch carefully and read, and this is one of the most important things to observe. Many packages fail all the time. Once you install them, you might encounter this problem. Watch carefully what he say, and there is no such module called collect. Now I am using what's so called an absolute import style. Why it's absolute? Because I'm writing explicitly the name of each module. Why is this problem happening? Because this particular module, when I am telling the interpreter to actually run, he go and think as he see this absolute written format, he think collect or database are within the package that is called payment. So he's looking for collect inside payment. He did not go out to the e-commerce. Now you might think, okay, I found a solution. If you say from e-commerce, well, you might think that way, but unfortunately it is not. Let me show you why it is not. Let me try to run again. You will see I am still encountering same problem. You go back and say there is nothing module called e-commerce. So he still think e-commerce is a module within payment. That's why you encounter this problem. Let me introduce you now to something called a relative import. What is relative? It's related to this dot secret. So dot implies directory location. Let me show you what I mean. If I say import dot here, he is showing me where I am right now in terms of payment. If I click one more dot, he went up. Now I am at the e-commerce. That's why he can show me collect, no pack, payments, and runner. So I want you to imagine this dot as if it is a tree. So every dot, it considers the location and go outward from where the location of the module that I'm running inside. So if I would have to do these two and collect here and then database, and I stop like that, I can't use the word import anymore. In this case, I must say from, and then I want to import the database variable. So this is not going to work anymore. Now, this format is called a relative import. Why? Because we're using this dot structure. Let me run one more time to show you a new type of error. These are the two famous errors you will encounter. It's called attempt relative import with no known parent package. Now, to solve this problem, if I am in a testing stage, imagine I am just editing this credit module and I just want to run the credit. I'm not going to run the whole e-commerce thing down the tree here. One way to solve this problem, I have to get out from this package, completely get out from this package. So as if I'm going back to the tree to the section 2 here. So let me go back here and show you again. Now I see the e-commerce package and I want to tell the interpreter, I want to run only this script as it is. Now to do that, I'm going to use Python again, but this time I will use a new argument with minus call m. Then I'm going to now draw the tree for Python to follow. So I will tell him go to e-commerce and inside go to payments and then a credit module. No need py, something like that. Now, if I click this one, it's going to work 100%. Okay, there's no problem. So this is for testing purposes. Just I wanted to show you the problem that If we run directly from inside, we will face either the first kind of error that there is no such model, or the second that you are using relative import and it's not going to work. Now I am using relative import here. What if I use not relative import, but I use just only absolute import as I was doing before? So if I run this one more time, now I'm using absolute, not relative kind of import. If I run this one, I'm going to run to a problem that there is no model called collect. So in this case, what I want to tell you, this command is going to work only if you are using a relative import. So we have seen now we are trying to reach from one package to another package and just testing. Let's keep everything as it is. Now I'm going to get out from this particular package itself. I'm going to get back to runner. And don't forget, runner, it's inside the e-commerce. Now I am inside runner, and if I run directly, it was working. There is no problem at all. How about if the folder, it's just a normal folder, doesn't have a package? It will be different from this or not. Let me go back here. Now let's just say I'm going to just go to import. It doesn't matter from payment or collect. Let's just go to collect again, to database. So I'm heading back here. I will go to e-commerce again. Inside e-commerce, I will go to no pack. Let's run and see whether we will face the same problem or not. Now I'm trying to get out from this folder, it's not package, to go inside a package. If we go to find no pack, now he's telling me here there is no model called collect, because don't forget I am using an absolute. It's not going to work. That's why I have to use a relative. So I have to change this one, say from collect database, import the variable. So if I run one more time, everything is working good. I know it can be really confusing, but take your time, go through the material, try by yourself again and again until it makes sense to you. Why I put this runner, it's just to show you it's an interface to go inside and pick up and everything. So I'm going to get back to my runner here. So I'm going to go back inside e-commerce from collect, import every module inside. It means there are two modules you can see inside collect here. And it's going to import no pack, and it's going to import payments. So I imported all the sub packages and their modules, except this is not a package anyway, it's just a folder. Let's see this will work or not. Python and runner. Everything is working perfect. There is no problem. I'm going out from e-commerce. I am completely now out of that package that I was creating for any purpose. Now I am inside this. There's something called main and setup, but we are still within the same folder of section 2. Open here main and say in main, what I want to use anything inside e-commerce. So e-commerce, I want to import run. It's just a module that just running everything. So this is the test that I'm trying to do here. So let me go to Python, run main. I should now run into the exact same problem I was talking about. Was there no module called collect? So now he is inside, I'm from inside main, he's going here, no module called collect. So which line is that? The second line. Why is not running? Because I'm using an absolute path, as you can see in here. Instead of this absolute import, I'm going to use a relative import. So if I run one more time, everything is working. Now, this package is developed inside this local machine. But how about if somebody else wants to use it? This is where we usually pip install things from other people. In this case, what we're going to do, inside this section 2, I'm going to go to a file called setup. I'm going to create a package, pip install it anytime that I want to use it. Setup tools is a package usually I think installed by default, and I'm importing two modules, the setup and find packages. So in this case, let's call it, actually instead of my project, let's call it e-commerce, the same package name here. Pip install in the editing mode dot. So what is that? And just pip install a package, right? This is what we do. With this case, I'm saying in editing mode. That means something is for testing. Go to the root where you are right now. So he will go to section 2, he look for this file called setup, and then he will understand what to do by himself. So if I click here, now everything is installed. If you want to make sure, you can say pip list And you will see now I have e-commerce one is installed with the package I was developing here. Now I have really e-commerce is installed as a local package and everything seems okay. Now if I get out from all this, like I'm completely in somewhere else, right? I'm going to close everything here. You can see I am in a completely new model, like I'm in a new project. I got nothing to do with the previous thing. If from e-commerce, I'm going to import runner. Now it works 100%. And don't forget, now I am completely outside and in a file. By the way, I go to pip list here. You can see e-commerce is installed. So if I would have to, just before that, let me show you one more time. If I run the file outside, things working, right? But if I go to pip uninstall this e-commerce and one more time to check pip list, you see it's not installed. And if I try to run again outside, he will say there is no such module called e-commerce because I imported. So I hope now everything is clear in terms of models and packages. And now it's the time to move to the next outline to discuss organizing model content. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about next. I will see you then.